Once again, 107 Citizen Kane. If you went to film school, if you took a film class of any sort, this is going to be on the curriculum. If we're going to be taking ourselves seriously as movie reviewers, or not too seriously even, you have to have this movie in there. I've been talking about this since we started doing this show, so it's definitely a necessity. And this has got, you want to talk about cultural influence and I want to say spectacle and long-lastingness. I don't know. I gotta go get a thesaurus or something.
Legacy.
Legacy. There you go.
There you go.
Legacy. This is the one. This is one for the books. So it's Charles Foster Kane. Starts off with humble beginnings, becomes a tycoon, lives his life and dies. And he has his dying words are Rosebud. And we go through learning who he is, not from him, but who he was through the eyes of the people in his life. And it's kind of somewhere in the middle where the stories jive on what his life actually was. And in the end, they still can't figure out what his dying words were. And it all happens in vain. So there's so much to unpack with this movie. Not necessarily as far as what the movie was, but more so how it was made and from an artistic standpoint. I mean, what it was, I don't believe it was a bad story. Especially because you get to see somebody start off their life and have a set of values, a set of ideals. And then when you see the portion where they bring in the other reporters to the thing and they're worried that he's going to influence them, and his buddy gives him the warning that they're going to influence him instead. And sure enough, when it comes to the end, he becomes just as bad of a sellout as the people who he had worried about in the first place. You know, he became that which was what he was started off when he was idealistic to be against, especially with using his platform to push his wife's horrible singing on the public and lying about it. And just I couldn't help but see a lot of indirect correlation with what's going on today with media especially, considering that he was a media mogul. So it was I did like the story. I wouldn't put the story itself doesn't elevate this movie to the legendary status that it does have. But at 25, what Orson Welles was able to bring to the table as far as a director and a storyteller, and what they were able to do with the visuals of the movie was fantastic. So the Jaded Fuzz, we're going to get to the Jaded Fuzz late this time.
Yeah.
So this is your first viewing of this movie, Josh.
Yeah, and I want to just say for the record that it's a bit of a jarring kind of film to watch on the heels of Evolution and Feast. You're talking about
big
going
jump.
from the valleys to the mountaintops.
Right, we had a course correct, right? It was those up and downs that Fuzzy's talking about.
That's one hell of a course correction, let me tell you. I felt the whiplash on that. So yeah, this was my first time watching it. You know, it's one of those things that you always have it on your list. I got to get around to watching it. And you're like, oh look, Maverick is free right now, so I gotta be watching that. And then you're like, oh, Brad Pitt's in Bullet Train. I liked him in Troy, so I'm gonna watch that. And you never get to, you forget about Orson Welles. You forget about the kind of impact that the guy had, and this is his magnum opus, as they say. So it was good to finally get around to it and to be able to see it. And I don't know, from my perspective, being as jaded as I am, I don't know that the film itself is as legendary as people want to make it sound. But you can definitely see that for its time, it set standards that affected the film industry afterward. I felt like movies like, I know Dracula, the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi came out before this, but that movie doesn't really follow the book that well, as much as Francis Ford Coppola's version does. But you can see how the way that things are done in Citizen Kane affects that. I can see elements of like Pulp Fiction in it. I can see like there's all these movies that were coming up while I was watching, like, oh, that's where they got that.
Psycho.
Yeah, just so many different things. And I want to say too that when we watch older films like this, because the special effects aren't all that hot, by our standards, the acting had to carry a lot. And I think that when you get back to these older films, these actors could fucking act. A lot of the actors we have today are so poor, so shallow, so like they can only do like one thing. And these people, and considering that, like at the end of the film, it basically outlines that, with the exception of Orson Welles himself, like everybody else, it's their first time. These people were good at doing that. So I was, I enjoyed it. It was good.
The crazy thing about that too is they're all speaking with that mid-Atlantic accent.
Yeah.
And people didn't talk like that back then. We think that they did because they were in movies, but they spoke pretty closely to how we speak right now for the most part. It was like, yeah, see, when I got the copper, see, man. It wasn't that wasn't really a thing. So that was kind of like a shirt that they put on to be in the movies. So Fuzzy.
All right, I gotta take a drink for this one.
Be careful, man.
All right,
you're about to touch some sacred cows. Be careful.
I know, and we're gonna get a lot of bad comments right now, and I apologize to everyone. But as a filmmaker, I understand why everyone loves this movie, because what you both are saying is correct. It set the standard for lighting. It set the standard for, cutaways. If you pay attention to that movie, right? Because I've seen this again 100 times. You never see the reporter's face. Did you notice that? He's always in the shadows, because you know why? You, the audience member, is the fucking reporter. So again, it's very well shot. It's very, it puts you in. And I appreciate it for the reasons why I know everyone else loves it for the tech. Like, you talk to any film guy, the reason why they put it at number one is because of the technicality of it. Like how they pulled it off, you know what I mean? It is a magnum opus in that sense. But it's a mystery. You're watching a mystery story. So this guy set the standard for any mystery story about how to, do it. And the ending of it is interpreted and argued about for fucking gonna be until the end of time. Because it means something different to everybody else. You know what I mean? So we should go around and all of us say what we think the ending meant, what Rosebud truly meant and stuff. But like, as far as a movie goes, dude, I don't get it. Like, if you're telling me the greatest movies, like, AFI always puts this at number one, right? And then like the one, I think like number 3 is Pulp Fiction or something. Like, there's some movies in there where I'm like, these are way better stories. They're shot very well. You know what I mean? Like, they come out of nowhere that are better than this movie. Citizen Kane is it's a very well done movie, but it just doesn't do it for me. Like, I remember seeing, and that's why I watched it so many times, because I kept going like, I'm missing something. You know what I mean? I'm missing something that everyone keeps talking about. Like, whenever the AFI list would come out and that's number one, I would go, why? And I'd go back and watch it. You know what I mean? And then when you said to do it, now I was like, well, I guess it's the beginning of the year. I got to do my yearly fucking watch of this movie and shit. And so I sat down and watched it again, and I tried to go at it like, okay, let's just watch this movie. And I appreciated it more for the way the story is told, again, through the audience perspective. Like, everyone else is narrating the story for you, so you're just sitting back and watching it. But it's his. I forget who he was trying to talk about. He was talking because it's kind of loosely based on a true story of a real guy. That's where this comes from and stuff. And he didn't like the guy, and so he kind of told the story, like made the story up to kind of tell his fucking story. And I would have rather seen that guy's story. Like I think Orson Welles does amazing acting, and then that's the other thing too. A lot of these older actors, they're coming from the stage. You know what I mean? That's why those actors came from the stage. So they're because there was no film acting. Like they're the ones that started it. So yeah, they had to, bellow out to the back stages and stuff. So that's why sometimes their dialogue's a little too big, or you know what I mean? Like the old dude when he's asking for the cigar. You know what I mean? Like he had like this little, like a little too much. You're like, God damn, man, like calm the fuck down, dude. Like, you know what I mean? But again, the shot's amazing because Orson Welles knew he didn't have special effects makeup to make the guy look super old and shit. So they dimmed it. You know what I mean? They just put him in this dark shadow, and there's only like this light coming through there. And same thing like with Orson Welles when they would cut to him and they had the fucking light, just over his eyes, just so you would focus on his eyes. Like that. Again, technically it is a beautiful movie, but as far as one of the greatest movie ever made, I don't think so. Like, no way. Like, in my opinion, it's not even in the top 100. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I'm not saying it's not a good movie. It's just I don't think the hype of it is because of the technicality. And when we watch a movie, how many of us, are sitting there going like, "Oh, I love the camera angle," or "Oh, I love this lighting." You know what I mean? Right. Like you go to a movie to just hear a story, enjoy yourself, and that's why I love movies like Fast and the Furious and shit.
What was your big problem with Feast?
With Feast was mostly because the darkness. It was too dark. You know what I mean? Like that's
and there was too dark and they had shitty camera angles, right?
Right, exactly. Like that, and again, it's not one of those. But the
guy who made Feast, could have been better if he would have took a second and watched some fucking Citizen Kane.
I agree. And again, it's a technical movie. Like I agree with them showing it at schools for filmmakers. Like they should watch this movie. Every filmmaker should watch this movie to understand. Like even when she's walking out, his second wife's walking out, and they got that long corridor, and he sees her on the like it's a beautiful shot, man. It's and it has meaning to it. Like that's the thing. You have to be the first movies that were ever made had no words. It was just pictures, dude. So the directors of those movies had to tell a story without saying words. You know what I mean? You'd get a little title card, but that was it. Like, so that's where filmmaking came from. So when you're telling a story, you got to do it visually. And I think a lot of people miss that nowadays. Like that's a lot of things. Like if you get Peanut Butter Falcon is one of my all-time favorite movies that came out in the past 10 years. And it's because it's a beautiful story. There's beautiful shots in that movie where they could literally, you can mute the movie and just fucking see it. Like it just happens. This one, you can do that too. You can mute this movie and you can get the story. You know what I mean? Because you've got all the close-ups of everything that's important. You know what I mean? And even those shots of like the fucking thing, the snow globe, when he's thrashing the room around, after she leaves, and then all of a sudden the camera just happens to go down right by that snow globe, and he walks by it, and then he comes back to it, and he picks it up, and he puts it in his pocket. Like that's planned out shooting. You know what I mean? That's what sucks about guerrilla filmmaking. When you're out there shooting, you just got to fucking run and hopefully get what you get. And so I mean, again, I technically think this is a great movie, but as far as a movie goes, it's okay, just okay.
Well, what are your thoughts about? Go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say the other thing too is that even though it's my first time seeing it, I feel like because it's gained itself such a legendary status, and like references show up for it like in everything. I feel like I've already seen the movie. You know what I mean? I knew that Rosebud was the sled. I knew all, and I probably got that from The Simpsons. But like, I feel like other movies have done homages to it in various ways, so that I've actually already seen basically the entirety of the film. Right. And so there was nothing that was really like surprising or anything like that. And I think it's just one of those things that because it's had such a large downstream effect on the film industry, I think that's helped build up its status. I mean, I'm kind of with you, Fuzzy, that in terms of like the story itself, I don't think it's like all that epic. I just think that at that time in 1941 when the movie came out,
yeah.
I don't think people had seen anything like that.
Right.
It was like when The Wizard of Oz came out and all of a sudden the screen had color and people are like, oh shit, you know? It gains a legendary status because it did things that at that time were like mind-blowing. And this is probably going to irritate some people, but you know, in a way, it's kind of like the first Star Wars movie, or maybe the first Avatar movie. You know, something that nobody's seen on the screen before, and so people are going to hold those movies as like game changers. You know, and
right.
so
we
might
do
consider Citizen Kane to be the first game changer for Hollywood.
For sure.
Right.
So, like, painting a picture, like you were saying, like they did with the silent movies. There's a scene where it's got the lawyer that's going to be picking up Kane and his dad and his mom, and you can see him through the window outside playing snow with the snow. So you can see almost 3 different visual stories happening in one shot there. You've got, and I don't even know why they even pulled him away, to be honest. Like, they were speaking to man, see him, man.
Well, no, the mom tells them is they because the dad and her were fucking hillbillies. You know what I mean? They're just fucking hillbillies, and now they got this money, so they're gonna send him off so he can have a better life. Because that's why when he comes out, he's like, I need to give the kid a thrashing, and he's like, no. She's like, that's why we're sending him away. You know, and then they do that shot. You know, that comes down. I mean, Orson Welles was a legit fucking director. Like I never doubt that. Like, and there's with that same shot you're talking about, right? So he's in the distance, right? The 2 parents are right here. How big is he? He's this big, right? Okay. Every other, if you notice,
perfect focus,
right? But he's this big because the 2 people are deciding his lives are huge. They're giants in his mind, right? Because they're fucking adults. Then comes the other scene where they find out about the girl, right? The other girl, the singer and stuff, right? What happens there? Orson Welles is in the background. He's grown up now, but he's still smaller. If you look at the shot, he's smaller. Everyone else is bigger. But what does he do? When they start telling him what he's going to do with his life, he steps into the frame and he gets bigger and bigger. And then that's when he says the line, no one's going to tell me what to do except me. So now I'm telling you, you could dissect that movie technically all day. Like it's a beautifully shot movie. Like I don't doubt that. Like I'm just saying. Besides,
we can rehash that piece. But for me, I want to go back into the story, and the story says that especially during that time, because this is pre-World War II even.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's what. What are we, 10 years out of the Depression, pre-World War II, and I think it is a foretelling on how you can be righteous and live during a time when our country was about to be taken over by conspicuous consumerism. And you would think, and I think that it's a good thing. It's a good piece for all of us to think that, I would like to go to Yale and do these things and see these fancy things. And when you get a guy who got a chance to taste poverty, play in the snow, live in a shack, catch a whooping from his dad and all that stuff, and he got everything. He had all the riches in the world. He had all of the comics at a 9.8. By the time he went, he had everything of it. He had his whole Raiders of the Lost Ark museum.
Yeah.
By the time he went. And at the end of it, what did he want? He wanted to go back and be a kid and just be with his sled out front. He wanted to go back to that moment. So
he wanted happiness. It's happiness. That's what all he wanted. He wanted that himself. That was the last time, that moment. When they took him away, what was he holding? That piece of fucking. So to him, that represents the time when fucking innocence was lost. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing that he holds dear, is like that thing, and he got it back. We saw it. they burn it. At the end, it fucking burns. You know what I mean? Like, they have all these valuable statues, but the one thing that was most valuable to him is garbage to everybody else. And we all have that thing. Let it be the fucking teddy bear that you used to sleep with as a kid that you still have in your bed somewhere and you smell it. I have a friend that is a grown ass man. He's in his fucking 50s and he still carries his fucking teddy bear with him whenever we go crash somewhere like in Las Vegas or whatever. I'll go into his room, his fucking teddy bear's on the thing, and I'm laughing at him because that's
Don't shine a black light on it.
No, I don't even let him throw it at me, dude. I'm like, get it the fuck away from me, dude. Like, I don't even know its name, but like its head's like almost about to come off and shit. And but again, I have shit like that, dude. Like, I have shit that I love to death that is worthless to everyone else, but to me is the fucking world. Like, you try to take it from me, I will beat your ass, dude. Like, I will kick you that because that's mine, you know. So that's what that represents. And again, Jay the Geek can mean something totally different to him. You know what I mean? Like, that's the they didn't tie it into a nice. I think we were talking about it in the last review about Hollywood endings. You know, the bow. This was like one of the first movies that didn't have a Hollywood ending. You know, like a nice little bow. The man and the woman go off into the distance. You know, and live happily ever after. Like, it fucking ends on a downer. Like, it's a full-blown downer. I mean, even the way it starts, and it's creeping in, and it's Xanadu, you know, and it's supposed to be this beautiful fucking thing, but it's decrepit. Everything. I know, I thought of you right away, JD. I was like, he's going to hear Xanadu and get excited. And fucking, you go in there, he dies, and then you watch this whole movie of this excess and beauty and what it was going to look like. And how does it end? Fucking the decrepit thing, you know what I mean? It's back to being decrepit, and fucking the last shot you see, no trespassing. No one will ever know what really made that man tick. Like, you know, again, like, it's beautifully shot. Just this fucking, you know, nah.
All right, let's do it. Buckets for me. I still got to give it a 10. And if before this time watching it, I would have given it like a 6. So I watched it yesterday. It went from a 6 to a 10 for me yesterday, just based on what we've been doing with this.
Nice.
You Jada Geek?
Go for it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the impulse is to give it a 10, and it would be hard not to, like I said, considering how much downstream effect it's had. I think more than any other film that we've ever watched, it's pretty clear just how much this movie has. Tainted isn't the right word, because tainted always implies something bad, but how much it's influenced everything that's come afterward. I mean, almost every film has some element that Orson put together when he was friggin' 25 for this movie. So my inclination is to give it like a 9, but the influence on this, you know, we normally rate like different categories from a 0 to a 2. We got 5 categories, it gets us up to 10. But I really think the influence on this thing is like past a 2. It's like a 4. So this is probably going to be a 10 just on that alone, you know.
All right, Fuzzy.
I'm the jaded one this week. Jesus Christ, dude! I'm gonna give it a fucking 7.5. Hey, I do. I need to borrow those. I need big ones, dude. I'm giving it a 7.5 and an 8. And if you know what I normally give a 7.5 and an 8 to, you'll know what I really think of this fucking movie.
Yeah, he loves evolution and beast more than Citizen Kane.
Way more.
There you have it, folks. Citizen Kane. Masterpiece of shit. The blasphemy. Fuzzy's gonna have the ghost in his garage will haunt him for this review.
Don't say shit like that, dude. Orson Welles is gonna come whisper in my fucking ear, dude. I'm sorry, man.
All right, guys, take us out, Fuzz.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Don't forget to have some love, some peace, and that Popeye's grease. We out.